Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind, and welcome back to another installment in my review and reaction series to each and every episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. If you've never seen any of my other review and reaction episodes up until this point, it's just my short form reaction series where I give my brief overview of the latest episode of whatever series I happen to be reviewing at the time, what I liked and disliked about the episode, what I thought worked and didn't work, as well as some analysis at certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, just to get this out of the way, this will be a full spoiler review of the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery, so if you've not seen this latest episode, I highly recommend coming back when you have, because this will be full-on spoilers from here on out. So with that being said, and without further ado, let's get into Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 5, entitled Die Trying. In the last episode, we saw that through Adira's ordeal on Trill, she was able to get her memories back from the symbiont, and Discovery is able to get the coordinates to find the Federation headquarters and Starfleet Command, and so this episode sees the Discovery finding Starfleet, what's left of it, and also Federation headquarters. It's a very visually interesting layout that they got going here for what this whole hideaway looks like. It looks like it's hidden behind some sort of cloaking barrier, and we got some cool ships. Even the Voyager J, which is kind of like the Enterprise J, so there's a fun little call out there. And the Discovery finally gets in touch with Starfleet Command and the Starfleet Chief of Staff, Admiral Vance, I believe, who is rightfully suspicious of Discovery and a 1,000-year-old ship coming through time, and there's some suspicion on both sides. Discovery's crew just wants answers and wants to be helpful, but Starfleet, there's a bunch of caution going on there that where the Discovery crew is eager to prove themselves to be helpful. the Starfleet personnel of the contemporary Starfleet is very suspicious, and they're more concerned with security rather than the idealism that the Discovery crew holds right now. But Burnham, there's some refugees, alien refugees in this starbase or whatever, and they're suffering from some sort of disease, and the only cure can be found in a seed on a planet that had been devastated by this point, but because of a seed depository somewhere out in space, it would take 5 months for a normal Starfleet ship to get there, but with Discovery's spore drive, they can get there instantaneously and get the cure in time to help these refugees. So Burnham proposes that, as sort of a test, that she commands Discovery while Saru stays as like collateral at the headquarters, and a couple of contemporary Starfleet go as monitors as a test of their intentions and their goodwill. They managed to make it to this seed bank, where it turns out it's revealed that the seed bank, the custodian of this seed ship, is transfers from member world to member world every so often, and this time around there is a family of Barzans scientists who are helping, who are shepherding these seeds. These named member species as Commander Nan. And it turns out hasn't seen a member of her species since she joined Starfleet. So Burnham, Nan, and Colbert go over to the seed ship to investigate, but it turns out because this ship has been in an ion storm, that's already bad news, but also because the ship had been hit by a radiation burst from a really big solar flare, a coronal mass ejection. Three of the scientist's wife and 2 daughters had died, unfortunately, and they're in stasis because this guy is desperately searching the seed bank, hoping to find a cure, but he can't do that. and there's some other stuff where he's phasing in and out, and the Discovery crew helps him, and they convince him because the seed bank is voice locked, they need his help to unlock it so they can help him. And because he feels like, no, these are my seeds, I have to help them. I need them to help secure my family, but his family's already unfortunately dead, and they have to help, break it to him gently, basically, and help him see it's like, no, they're gone. There's nothing you can do anymore, but you can still help others. And they manage to get to do this, and Commander Nan actually volunteers because the seed ship's on its way back to Barzan, or the Barzan system. As part of their watch, she volunteers to stay behind on this ship to. Well, I believe the scientist's name was Addis, I believe, and she says no, it's her way of saying thank you to. Lieutenant Arium, the cyborg personnel crew member who died in the previous season, saving Commander Nan's life. There's a way of repaying that, and also she wants to be with her kind. You get to see her home world again. So this, for all intents and purposes, at least until probably the end of the season, this is effectively the end of Commander Nan's journey, at least for now. She may show up later in the season, of course, but for now, this is basically her saying goodbye to the crew of Discovery. And with this task, Discovery's able to bring this cure back to the headquarters where these refugees are. They're able to cure the refugees, prove their good intentions, and there's a good moment where earlier in the episode when the chief of staff is saying, no, you're not, you guys aren't home yet, you're still under suspicion. Now he tells Saru and Burnham, welcome home. So it's basically, yeah, you passed the test, welcome home. And then this episode ends with basically coming to terms with the fact that it's still Starfleet, but it's not the same Starfleet that they left, and they kind of have to remind the Starfleet what they were standing for to begin with. So yeah, that's how this episode ends. And what I liked about this episode is, well, the actor who played Admiral Vance, it took me a while to place him. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but I believe he plays, now I forget the character's name. The guy in the Mummy franchise, the Mummy and Mummy Returns, as the leader of the Magi. I mean, he was kind of a cool character in that one. It's like, oh yeah, it's nice to see him again. So that was kind of cool. Also, I like the fact, like the design of the Federation and Starfleet headquarters here is really cool. Again, really great visuals. Although part of me feels like the way certain scenes are shot, like in older Star Trek properties, it was a lot easier to see the ships and their designs because just how the technology worked and how they composited them into the scene. This one, maybe it's just because they didn't want to focus on them too much, but what they do show, it doesn't seem as appealing to look at these new ships as it should. Maybe that's just me, but it felt off somehow. I mean, overall looked pretty, especially like when you zoom out and see like the Discovery framed by like this core and all the energy coils coming out, going out to the various ships. I mean, it looked cool in that sense, but I wish we could have seen a little more detail on these ships to kind of soak them in, and maybe on a rewatch you can just kind of hit pause and be like, ooh, look at that, that would be kind of cool. But in the moment, I wish I could have seen them a little better. But also, they're setting up a couple mysteries here that will probably play into later episodes, and some of them work, and I think some of them don't. One being the fact that again, they're really hammering home that Detmer's not okay, and we had this on a couple episodes, but the fact that they're still hammering this home makes it seem like it's possibly more than just, you know, a bad head injury and just and a shaken confidence, and maybe that'll play in bigger later on. That's an interesting storyline to go through. What I think that they may that worked. What I thought didn't work as far as like a mystery goes is I mean, maybe it'll look better in later episodes, but the way it's set up here, it does not make a lick of sense to me how that works. Because when they arrive at Starfleet headquarters, the top brass wants to debrief a bunch of the crew, and one of them obviously is of major interest to them is Emperor Giorgio, and they recognize that she's a Terran from the Mirror Universe, and they drop an interesting tidbit that after her crossing over, the distance between the Prime Universe, our universe, and the Mirror Universe has been getting wider and wider in the intervening years, and there hadn't been a crossing in 500 years, so that would be, what, the 27th century or whatever, so the 2600s, so that's kind of an interesting tidbit, but they're setting things up that, like, her interrogator has this, they have a weird interrogation thing where it's like who's interrogating who at that point, but then she leaves the episode kind of forgets about it for such a long time, such a big portion of the episode, up until the very end when Discovery returns, and then Giorgio's just standing in the hallway, unblinking, and you think that because she's not blinking, like, it was established early on that because the holograms didn't blink, like, did they replace her with a hologram or something? But then she reverts herself and it's like, oh no, I'm fine. But it's like, that was not established at all. It just seems like a moment where it's like, oh, that's weird. I wonder if they're going to focus on that later on. It's just that reveal of like a weird tidbit to focus on later as like a setup for a mystery. It just seemed like it came out of nowhere, in my opinion, and that I didn't like how that was set up. Maybe you felt differently, but I thought that that felt like it came out of nowhere, in my opinion. So we'll see if it pays off to anything meaningful later on. It looks like that will develop in the next episode based on the preview for next week's episode. But yeah, that didn't really seem off to me. Also, maybe I need to rewatch Discovery Season 2 again to see this, but I thought that the way they played up Commander Nan's staying behind decision, I feel like it would have been, it's effective in the moment, but I felt like it would have been more effective had we spent more significant time developing her character in the last season. And I have to rewatch Season 2 again to make sure, but I feel like they didn't develop her quite enough to justify that sort of payoff. I think, again, it works fine in the episode. I think it makes a whole lot of sense, especially with connecting with Homer. We already had since the vast majority of the crew of Discovery is human. We already went to Earth. They already had that home world. That was fine. So now we have a connection with the Commander Nan and the Barzans, her home world, her species. I mean, that worked well in the episode. I think, not disputing that didn't work well, I think they probably could have had it done better. So, but overall, I would say, if I was to give this episode a letter grade, I'd say it would be like a solid B. I mean, none of the problems that I illustrated here detract that much from the episode. I mean, some things seem weird, but overall, I'd say this is a decent episode. And it's setting up some things that I'm looking forward to see how they develop in future episodes, which is always a good thing in a series like this. Some things that I thought, the only real thing that I noticed that seemed familiar to me is the fact that when, again, Addis, I believe is the scientist's name on the seed ship, the fact that he's like phasing in and out of this, like, is going in and out of phase and like trying to attack the away team, and like saying get off of here, and he's like attacks them, and then he's solid for a moment, and then he phases out in another instance. That reminded me a bit of an episode from Season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., namely the episode Repairs, in which a guy is going in and out between dimensions, dimensions pretty much, and he can phase in and out of solid matter, and he's attacking the S.H.I.E.L.D. team on board the bus, and there was an echo of that. Had that been the main focus of like he'd become the primary antagonist of this whole episode, that would have been an even bigger connection. But as it was, like, oh, That's a little quirk that I thought seemed familiar there, but overall I thought that was the only thing I noticed, but I may have missed something. Let me know if there are any other similarities that you saw in this episode in the comments below. Also, what did you think of this episode? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Again, if I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to tune in next week for my review of next week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. And if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially a subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you for watching. You guys are the best, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.